I wanted to start this by saying that everything in this post is true as trains have faces. I'm the service technician for a service tower in New Mexico, near a little town called Redwall. It's a little nowhere town and my job isn't exactly the most thrilling. I just sit and watch over the tower and sometimes climb it to check everything's alright on top. But the job does have its perks, such as I get to sit and watch the trains pass by, and I get to talk to them if they do stop, but that's rare. Especially since I work the night shift. The town of Redwall is at the bottom of a massive gulch, and at night it can be kinda creepy. Now, I'm not one for believing in any supernatural rubbish. I find it all quite unbelievable and boring. But being in the gulch in the dead of night, well, certainly gives me the chills. The reason I mention this is because one night, I was out of my little cabin at the base of the tower. It's more like a shed, but you get what I mean. Better than nothing, especially during winter. I was doing regular checks on the base of the tower when I noticed at the corner of my eye a red light. Now this was strange as there were no signals for the trains in this section. So I looked towards it and realized that it was a man holding an old-style hurricane lamp, which flickered red. I thought it was just another railroad worker doing some kind of inspection, but I was curious about his lamp. So I walked up to him and asked him about his lamp and why he wasn't using a battery lamp like everyone else. He shot me an odd look and said that he didn't trust that newfangled electric stuff. Well, after that, I bid him goodnight and I walked back to my cabin. Fast forward a few hours and the sun was just peeking over the mountains, and I got ready to head up to my home in the town of Wolfram. Now, a cool thing about my job is that we have a little speeder thing. It's basically a metal box with a motorbike engine, and I got 4 train wheels on it. We use this to get ourselves in and out of the gulch as the road network is extremely poor. So before we're allowed to put this speeder on the mainline track, we have to inform the train dispatcher that I'm about to leave so we don't get hit by incoming freight trains. So I radioed into the dispatcher and told him I was about ready to leave. I also mentioned that I had seen their track inspector and asked what he was doing. The dispatcher asked if I was sure I'd seen someone, and I said yes. Dispatcher said that they hadn't anyone booked in to inspect the track that night and they would have held all traffic while a search was performed. I was later told that they hadn't found anyone, and I was shocked. I would have sworn that I saw someone. Spoke to him too. Anyways, a few weeks passed by and there was some sort of event down in Redwall at the little railroad thingy there. While I was there, I ended up telling the story to some of the older guys and one of the engines. After retelling said story, the little engine, I believe his name was John, gave me a very old-fashioned look and said,
This reminds me of an incident from my mainline days.
I asked what he meant, and this is what he told me.
Well, it was back, as I said, during my mainline days, i.e. when the whole railroad was dual gauge. Anyway, it was the middle of the night, and I had to move some of the MOW cars up the hill for some project. So we started off and we were running well. I had to really go quick, so I had enough momentum to get to the top with that big of a train behind. Anyway, I was thundering along, and about where you saw him, I saw this man with a hurricane lamp, and he was crying out,
Stop! Stop, you fool! Stop!
Well, I dumped the brake and we clattered to a stop. But when we went back to check, no one was there. Well, I thought I was just seeing things until a couple nights later. I was standing at the bottom of the grade switching some cars around. I stopped and this little mogul appeared, and I'll tell you, it almost made me jump the road. I hadn't heard this engine roll up. I said, Jesus, you scared the starlight out of me. Where the hell did you come from? It was then I took in what the little engine looked like. They were a small 260 tender engine, with Sunset and New Mexico Railway stenciled on the tender. She looked about 40 years out of date, even for my standards. They looked at me with a pleading look and said,
Please help me. My train. It's a fire on the hill. You must help.
Alright, don't drop a plug. I'll go get his lordship in the fire train. Don't worry, I'll be back.
No, there's no time. You must come now.
The mogul pleaded with me. There's no point in me coming alone, I stated. and I quickly bounced over to the house, got his lordship up and roused the workmen. I collected the fire train, but by the time I'd gotten everything together, the mogul had disappeared. Where the devil's she gone to? Ah, they've gotten back to their train, I thought. Well, we ran up the hill, and we got to that little tunnel, the one just after the waterfall bridge. As we thundered towards it, we could see smoke belching out of the mouth, so we stopped just on the curve. Now, the strange thing is, I've seen tunnel fires before, and this one's strange, as usually you can see the glow through the smoke, especially in a tunnel this short. Well, as we sat there puzzled, we heard a voice cry out,
Dear God, stop! Stop, you fool! Stop!
and I recognized it as the man with the hurricane lamp. Then, through the darkness behind the train, the bright beam of a headlight shone through, and the blast of a steam whistle pierced the air. The workman leapt from the train and ran for cover. The only one who stayed on was his lordship. Well, the headlight got closer and closer, and then it disappeared. Just darkness. And when I looked forward, I saw the smoke from the tunnel had disappeared. Well, we continued all the way into Wolfram, and there was nothing. Even in the tunnel there'd been no evidence of a fire. It was only a couple years ago that I finally found out what had actually happened. Turns out back in the teens, just before the first war started and the original railroad in Sunset was still in full swing, they had a large wreck apparently one night. One of their moguls was climbing the grade with a train, and they had set their train afire while climbing the hill. A real bit of bad luck, and they stopped in the tunnel to try and extinguish it. While they did that, a fast mail, also leaving Redwall, ran up the hill and piled into the freight train stopped in the tunnel. The engineer of the express reported that he had seen a brakeman waving a hurricane lamp.
Needless to say, I was shocked to learn that the man I had seen and spoken to had been dead for at least 100 years. The little engine just laughed at my shock and told me not to worry about it. Supernatural things happen more than I think. Little engine chuckled and clanked off to do some more work. Since that day, I have not seen the man with a lamp, but sometimes I swear, I can see a flicker of red from a hurricane lamp from around the corner of my eye.
Hello, I'm at the scene here on the Sunset Gold Trail line where we can see where the tragedy happened. I'm saddened to report that the service technician, Jim Thompson, was killed. We are still waiting for the official report, but the speculation here is this. The service technician, Thompson, left the service tower just up from Redwall about 5:36 a.m. in the company rail speeder. And about 5:44, he began having engine troubles, and the speeder came to a stop in this tunnel here behind me. While stopped in the tunnel, the engine somehow caught fire. We're still waiting for official report. During the commotion, he did not inform the rail dispatcher up in Wolfram just above us, and due to this morning's freight train racing up the grade, they did not have any warning and plowed right into the rail speeder, destroying it immediately upon impact, tragically killing Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, we're making good time, and I couldn't see the tunnel due to being on the right side.
I had thought I heard something. I could have sworn I heard someone yell out something as we approached the tunnel. But by the time I started to tell Joe to use it up, we hit the speeder.
Well, I couldn't hear anything over the stack talk, but I did think that the smoke was a bit thick. But I thought it was smoke from a train running ahead of us. I didn't even see a glow from a fire.
We're at 12.
He's after me! I don't think you'll be late, said Duck.